Let's go, baby.
The day after surgery, the surgery went well. I was so much pain, but I wouldn't take anything back at all. This has been the hardest thing I've ever went through in my life. This is the hardest thing I've ever experienced. Welcome to my channel, I'm Crystal Levi. I'm a singer, songwriter, and rapper, and so much beyond. Life is full of adventures. Just stick around and you see how I'm so much more than just the music. There's so much more to me. I'm a daughter of the Most High, a big sister to this guy. 14 years and a lifetime to go. Being a his wife, journeying through his life. We're gonna laugh, learn, and cry together. But first, hit that red button, subscribe, and let's grow together. Hey, what's going on, family? As you've seen from the title of this video, I am going to be talking about something that was real heavy for me to experience, and as well as my husband, which is my infertility / IVF journey. I wrestle with should I share this or not, but I feel like it can be beneficial and an encouragement to others that are going through this journey. And so I'm going to put myself out there with the hope that it would encourage someone else that may be going through this journey as well. So I'm not going to linger too much. I'm going to dive straight into it. And also I'll insert some video clips along this video that are from certain moments of things that we were going through, just because I feel like that emotion was raw and real at the time, and me trying to explain it right now, like after the moment is passed, I probably won't do it any justice. So I will insert various clips that will kind of express the emotion of certain things during this journey. So I'm going to dive straight into why I decided to do this video. Again, I know that this journey is one that is not really sought after or talked about unless you're really experiencing it. Like, I didn't look up anything about infertility or about IVF until this was something that I was going through. And I'm pretty sure most of you that are on this video are here because, you know, you're going through the same thing as well. Where I found the flaw, if you want to call it that, to be, is a lot of people don't know how to speak to or how to walk with and love on people that are going through this. It's kind of like one of those things that don't get talked about. And that just could be my experience. And it's like, how do you talk to people about it as the person that is going through? How can you ask people to understand what you're going through unless they actually been through it? So I had to wrestle with both of those sides of the spectrum. While as I kept wanting people to reach out and really help me through this, because this is one of the most emotional journeys I've ever been on in my life. And it's like you feel alienated, you feel like some people avoid you, or you feel like people don't understand, or they're not reaching out to you, or no one cares. And on the other end, it's like, how can they care? How can they minister to you? How can they understand what you're going through? What do you want them to say to you? You know what I mean? So I had to wrestle with both sides of that, and that kind of made me angry. It made me angry. I'll say that it made me very angry. So I wanted to make this video, hopefully, to kind of bridge the two together. How emotional this journey can be, because I don't think a lot of people realize how emotional this can be. Because I've had some people say some of the most insensitive stuff to me on this journey, like, okay, it's in God's timing, or what's the big deal, you know, just the things that people say. And on the flip side, I want people that are going through this journey, that literally sought out this video because you're going through this journey, to understand you're not alone, and that we can get through this. And I won't go on to say that the outcome that you're expecting will be there, because I think that's, like, for me, I'm one round of IVF, failed transfer, failed fertility treatments, IUIs, failed everything. And I'm looking for the outcome of having my own natural child, but that may not be the outcome that I have. I may, have a different outcome. God may lean me towards adoption. I don't know. That's not where my heart is right now, but I don't know what the future may hold. So there's my personal yearning to want to be a mom, and then there's God's will for my life. And so, yeah, that's why I wanted to create this video, so that people can understand how hard this is for couples to go through, and as well as give encouragement to anybody else that may be going through this. My heart really goes out to you because it's just such a tough journey. And my heart really goes out to people that don't have anyone to talk to right now, and that doesn't have anyone around them that understands and loves on them, and you really feel abandoned, because I know what that feels like, and that's the hardest place to be. And my heart really goes out to you, and I'm so sorry if that's you. I'm so sorry. If that is you and you do need someone to just talk to, just vent to, please feel free to DM me on Instagram. My Instagram is on my YouTube page, and I'll have it below as well. So if that's you and you just really just want to vent, you don't really want nobody to talk back, you just want to vent, please feel free to vent in my DM, because I understand. So I'm going to jump right into this, my journey, my husband and I's journey with IVF and infertility. Okay, so my journey begins officially of January of 2020, excuse me. January of 2020, we had, we've been trying, aggressively trying to have, that sounds so bad, we were really trying to have kids in 2019, late 2018, and nothing was happening. And after when you're really trying, then your OBGYN tells you to, give it a good year. And I would say that we were actively trying, doing the things, the ovulation calculator, the calendars. So we were actively trying for a year, and nothing happened. And so after a year, we sought out a specialist. We just Googled, IVF IVF clinics in Ohio. And when our appointment was 3 months out from the date that we set it. So we set it, say September of last year, September, October, November. So October of last year, whatever 3 months was from there, we set it, and it was I know it was the 3 month gap between the date that we set it. And so we went to our appointment on January the 6th of 2020, I believe. And, that first date when you go into the clinic, you're doing all the examinations. And I don't know about you guys, but I had 11 vials of blood taken from me in one session, which was so overwhelming. I did not know I could produce that much blood. For real. She just kept on, taking it off, tapping it, boom, boom. But I was like, lady, how many days of blood you gonna take? I just sat in the car, just my husband was emotional. I was emotional. I'm like, why are we here? How did we get here? And we went home that day just a mess. And I had scheduled, to move forward. I had scheduled for HSG because of what was found during my examination, that both of my tubes were closed. So we scheduled an HSG. And so after we got in the car that day, we kind of processed everything. And mind you, we're still working at this time. So we were working as respite parents. And so we had our appointment, and we had to go into work. People don't care about your personal problems, right? And so you're having to kind of pause that part of your life and then kind of like go back into on the normal life. So it's feeling like you never really process things. And so the next following week or whatever, I think it's around Aunt Flo, but I think it was time to around Aunt Flo's date. And so I think I remember it being 11 days or 11 days out past that date. So we went to have I went and had the HSG, and it was not good news at all. She let me know that day that I would never have kids outside of IVF, and that is the most gut-wrenching, heartbreaking diagnosis you can ever have, and not know why. Because again, you know, when they take the 11 vials of blood, they're testing for everything. And so I don't know how I got there. I never had any history of any sexually transmitted diseases. I never had any history of anything of that nature. And the only thing I can think of is I used to have a lot of pain in my stomach when my Aunt Flo came on. And I know after that, we went to, after getting that diagnosis, and she suggested that I remove both tubes and we start IVF. Obviously, that's a lot to take in at one time, right? You know, that really alleviates the ability to have your own natural kids. So obviously, I'm not going to just take her, I'm not just going to take what, you know, her diagnosis was. I wanted a second opinion because that's something that cannot be reversed. So I went to, we both, my husband, because I was a very emotional mess. My husband actually made the calls to get a second opinion, and I'm glad that he was so strong during that time, because we were already kind of like going through a lot that year before. We had recently been let go of something that we moved to Ohio for, and my husband's grandmother had just passed that December, like a few days before Christmas, and we were down there, and then to receive that news, it was just like, I can't. Called off work, and my husband, you know, being the stronger of us, and I know he was going through and is going through his own emotional, he's processing it in the way that he can, way that is natural for him to process it. I wasn't looking for him to respond the way that I respond, because he's his own individual, and I know that he cried a few days, but I just couldn't make a call. I couldn't do anything. It was just the hardest news anybody ever wants to hear in their life. And sorry, y'all, I didn't think I was gonna cry. But he called and got called to make an appointment for a second opinion. And so we went to this facility, which was a fertility specialist. So at the time, I didn't know it was the difference between an IVF specialist and a fertility specialist. So we went to a fertility specialist to see if anything else could be done. She asked if we want to do, she said they can, excuse me, y'all, I'm a mess. She said that we can move forward and have a laparoscopy, which will allow her to go inside the tubes to see if they're repairable, to see what's going on. And immediately I was like, yes, let's do that. So this is February 2020, and we all know what happened in March of 2020, COVID-19. Oh my, I was like, Lord, why? Like, what is going on? Last year was the hardest year of my life. I was like, my surgery was scheduled for March 8th. Obviously, I'm getting a call like the last few weeks. I'm still not understanding everything that was going on with COVID. Like, what is it contagious? Like, what are we doing here? What is shutting down? Because my job had already started, you know, talking about shutting down. As a respite parent, they were like, we're not sending kids to your home anymore. And it was just so much because of the job that we had. It was just so much to take in, and you're trying to deal with that. And then I received a call from the sweetest lady ever working in a clinic. I don't want to say her name, but if you just happened across this video. Just thank you for being patient, and thank you for being so understanding and sweet. Because I have learned after dealing with so many fertility clinics, that's, you know, you would think that's the norm, but that's few and far in between sometimes. But anyway, she called me and let me know that the surgery had to be rescheduled for an unknown later date, obviously because COVID has now become this pandemic and everything is shutting down. And I understood. I knew with nothing she could do about it. So, I mean, she listened to me cry. And then she reassured me that, you know, everything's going to be okay. And so, mind you, we're in Ohio. I'm originally from Georgia. I talk like y'all know these things. I'm sorry, y'all. And I know y'all don't know. So I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. We were living in Akron, Ohio for about the last 5 years. No family, no friends that I can really kind of like vent to and just kind of be, you know what I mean, just real to at the time. So I'm literally going through this without anyone per se, and my mom didn't know at the time. And I know that now I kind of look back on, I wish I would have told my mom. I just didn't want to overwhelm her with the stuff I was going through, you know what I mean. I just felt like I was trying to handle everything by myself, and it was so much I didn't even understand, and I couldn't even just like articulate to help anybody else understand. So yeah, my surgery was scheduled for March the 8th to an unknown date, and my job was on full shutdown. They had me go fill in at the homes that they had, where the kids are permanent. Our kids, we were again respite parents, so we had kids every 3 to 4 days, and they would kind of transition out. But the company that we worked for had kids that were in a more permanent situation, or more long-term situation, where they were living in the house full time. So they had us go to different homes to help out, but I think I had emotionally checked out at some point because I was just so overwhelmed. I don't know. And you have to, when you're in those spaces with foster care or respite care or anything dealing with kids in that nature, you have to be honest about where you're at, because you're doing everyone a disservice when you're not. You're doing yourself a disservice. You're pouring from an empty cup, and the kids in your care are already empty, you know what I mean, in a lot of ways. So when you are not honest with what you're going through and what you can provide, you do everyone a disservice. So being honest to what I can and cannot do, I let them know that where we're at. And this is the difference in having an organization that backs you up and an organization that's about the bottom line. And let me backtrack. Respite is not one of those things, because when you're, as a respite provider, you're living in a company home, and all the things. You're living in their home. You're there like a permanent resident or like a full-time resident. And so, because you have to live in their homes because it's state approved, so you have to make sure the house stays state approved. And so, it's not one of those jobs where you can walk away when things get really heavy. And people already think negatively about people that's in respite or foster care. They already think negatively about certain people that do those things, especially when you're a Christian and in the church. They always think you have, like, you're either in it for the money or, just always these negative things. And it's like it's a hard space to navigate through. I had to be honest with where I was with respite. My organization really didn't understand. It was kind of like, I don't care about your personal problems. I need you to, show up. And, it's like you got to have a balance between those two. But that's neither here nor there. I let them know, and they kind of withdrew us from being so heavy with what we were doing, which I'm thankful for. And again, through the pandemic, they were still paying us our same wages. So I understand that part too. Nobody wants to pay someone that's getting a free ride. So I understand their position as well. I guess it was just us just trying to navigate through something so personal, something so heavy, and still trying to emotionally be present. And that was a hard space. So, okay, we were kind of working, but kind of not. March 8th came. Surgery was canceled. Rescheduled for a later unknown date. So she called me the last week of March and said that we have an opening April the 8th. So this is exactly a month after it was canceled. She said that we have an opening on April the 8th, and we want to get you in here. She said you were the first name on my list that I could think of to call, and she said we can go ahead and schedule you today if you say yes. And of course I said yes. And she scheduled me for the surgery on April the 8th because again, COVID-19 was still fairly new. People were still trying to figure out things. On April the 8th, my husband was not allowed in the surgery. He wasn't even allowed in the hospital. Only thing he could do was drop me off at the door. I had to be pretty much sprayed down with all this stuff and hand sanitized, masks, and all the whole nine. And then I had to go upstairs and navigate all of that. And I wasn't able to see him before surgery. And then after surgery, obviously he wasn't there either. And I don't know what it is about anesthesia, but it takes me so long to come out of that. Like the other lady that was next to me after recovery that had the same procedure, she was up like texting and like, I'm ready to go. She was walking around and everything. But me after that procedure, boy, I was a mess. I was leaning and it was like, Miss Jackson. Miss Jackson, you gotta wake up. I'm like, I'm trying. Like, it literally, my surgery ended at 4. I didn't leave the hospital till like 8. So it took me forever. They kept trying to get me up, and then they would talking to me, and I just nod back off to sleep. And then, you know, you have to use the restroom before you leave, and I had to fill up. I mean, like, I was a mess. Like, and then it was just like, oh, it was blood everywhere. Anyway. No, I'm glad that has passed. But I had the laparoscopy. I don't know what my doctor told me during after I woke up, and you know, I told her I don't know what she said either after we had our next appointment. But she was telling me that it was successful. They did have to remove one tube because they found a whole bunch of polyps of endometriosis. I'm hoping I'm saying polyps of endometriosis, and that the tube was unrepairable, and that the left tube was unrepairable, and then it had to be removed because there was so much, I guess, endometriosis there. But the right tube had no endometriosis. It was just probably just tissue that came from the left side, and so she was able to open it back up and repair the fimbriae. And so after that, after we had our follow-up appointment and she told me everything that happened, and you know, it was a rough process for me to go through the healing. I literally sat in bed. I was struggling with hard depression. After that, obviously you're not able to do for yourself after the procedure like that. I really struggled with depression after that procedure. Emotionally, I think I just wasn't able to get out of bed, even though I probably could have. It was just so depressing. So for me, I just started turning on my Bible app at night, and I would wake up listening to sermons in the morning time because I just had so much negative stuff going through my head, and I just really felt like I just couldn't go on. I never felt so low in my life. And because it's like, why isn't my body working? Why isn't God doing this for me? Why am I going through this journey? It's just so many whys. And you know, everything isn't so linear in those moments. Like I just feel like sometimes people think everything is so ABC, and it's not so linear. Yeah, after healing from the surgery and meeting with my doctor virtually, just as a follow-up so she could tell me what happened, that same day we received like the most gut-wrenching call that a young family member had passed, and literally I had nothing else. I was just dry. I just had nothing else. When I heard that news and I heard that scream, and because I'm hearing this, my husband is sitting right here. I'm hearing this conversation. I'm hearing people screaming. I'm hearing people say, no, not him. It was so raw. It was in that moment like, oh my God, I cannot take no more. I just literally could not take anymore. And I hated seeing my husband go through that, losing his grandmother, dealing with this with me, with infertility, and now losing this other family member that was very close, so little, so young, and it broke my heart. I couldn't take it anymore. It was just, I didn't know how to go on. And you're being around people that don't understand, that don't care, and you're dealing with some of the most heaviest stuff in your life, and you really have nowhere to pull from. And so we made the decision to move back to Atlanta around around July of last year. We were kind of like so done. We were so done. Like we had nothing else. We were both so done, and we was like, we're just gonna move back to Atlanta because COVID-19 had provided that space for us to kind of pack up and move, because now it's like we're not doing X, Y, and Z thing. So we packed up the house, moved back to Atlanta, kind of started over per se. We did start a trucking company when we moved down here. And that has been our main source of income. Anybody that's in the trucking industry know this is a very lucrative industry. So we saw that as the best option, and so that's what we did. And so moving back to Atlanta has been the best decision. Since moving back, we have started at another doctor, and it's an IVF clinic. So I have started with IVF, and yeah. So tonight is the night before transfer day, and we're about to do a round of progesterone, and I still have some meds to take. I am glad that we have made it this far and that we're almost there. Is there anything you would like to say? This is definitely, I'll turn it to me. This has definitely been a journey. It has been very reflective, to say the least. It's definitely been a journey.